Hi, my name is Jaron Moore. I'm the producer and creative lead for the Legend of Zelda Symphony of the Goddesses. Really excited to be coming to New York City. It's a great place to have a show like this, and Madison Square Garden couldn't be a better venue. So we have some questions today from some fans, and I guess we're going to just start answering those. And by we, I mean me and my multiple personalities. We have a question from John at Facebook. He says, "What do you think the music means to fans who've been playing this game for 20 years?" Well, I can take a guess. I've been playing this game for 25 years, and I can tell you what the music means to me, because it's pretty inseparable from the game experience and the story. As you guys know, there's been over 16 games in this franchise, and Koji Kondo and his team over at Nintendo have always done a wonderful job at creating some of what I feel is the most memorable music in the video game industry, let alone stuff to come out of Japan. So first and foremost, he created a main theme that you just can't get out of your head with the first game, and that was the Legend of Zelda on the Nintendo, and then just moving forward, A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, being the third game to come out, was a hallmark, kind of a milestone for me. It established a lot of the themes that we hear throughout the rest of the series, all the way up through the current, the most recent release, which was The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So, the music itself is very nostalgic. It's great because it has a history and a sense of establishment to it, and through that, you're getting to kind of tie in a lot of the adventure and a lot of the memories that us as fans have been building on ever since we started playing. So yeah, that's. I hope that answers your question. Next question is from Joanna D on Google Plus. How do you try to represent Link, the protagonist in the game, through the music? Well, we don't try to do that. That's already been done in the games, and with the symphony, our job was just to really bring the music to life and retell the story that you're already familiar with, and hopefully our love for this franchise, allows us to kind of meet you in the middle and bridge that gap. So Link, yeah, he's the hero, and he doesn't really have a theme per se. He did in The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess, which was the first of the two games to come out on the Wii, and I think that his theme in that game, which was pretty inseparable from the main theme of the game, was that's one of my favorite scores in the franchise, which was really well developed. It had a lot of motivic development. Those guys just did a great job telling the story through its music. And for myself and music director Chad Sider on Symphony of the Goddesses, we wanted to apply that kind of approach to the entire franchise and retell the story through its music in an overall arcing fashion. So you're going to get to hear and see music and visuals from the Ocarina of Time, from the Wind Waker, from Twilight Princess, and from A Link to the Past, and kind of get to relive those experiences from the game itself through its music and through a visual highlight reel that kind of takes you back through that story. And so yeah, Link is there. Can't really do Zelda without him. Our next question is Chris R from Facebook. Since Link is mute throughout the game, does this make the music more important than in other games where characters have a stronger voice? That's a really good question. I would say yes. The music in the game, and this kind of ties back to a couple of the other things that the other questions that I've answered. The music is a real provides a real emotional connection, and Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of The Legend of Zelda and also Super Mario Brothers, one thing he's gone on to say in interviews is that he named Link Link because he's kind of the link to that world. He's our link to that character. He gives you the option of naming Link whatever you want. So if your name is Jaren, like mine, you can type in Jaren or Brian or Chris, for instance. But I'm old school. I always type in Link because Link to me is Link. He is mute. So really, his voice is yours. You're developing an emotional connection with the characters in the game, and that music is accentuating that experience. And so I really feel like when you come see the show, you're gonna relive those moments. I've seen the show a lot. I travel with it. I've been to every city, and it's always a new experience. It's a great way to celebrate your passion for the game. If you don't know anything about Zelda, it's a great way to learn about it. And if you don't want to learn about Zelda and you're being dragged there anyway, you're going to hear some awesome music, and I bet you walk out having an appreciation for something you didn't think you would. So let's see. Next up is Brian C. on Google+. He asked a few questions. Let's see. Aside from the musical aspect of the show, what other elements of the game make an appearance? Does Ganondorf appear on stage? Will a boomerang or shooting sword fly by? Well, we don't want to hurt anybody in the audience, so we try not to throw any weapons around. and Ganon's too busy causing trouble in Hyrule, so the only place you're going to see boomerangs or shooting swords or bad guys is on the giant screen hovering above the orchestra. That's where all the visual action takes place. And in front of that, you're going to see our conductor, Emer Noon, conducting the orchestra, and she does so with such great passion and precision. She's a lot of fun to watch, knows the music through and through, and then I'll come out occasionally on stage and talk about the music and what you're about to hear. I've been known to tell some kind of corny Zelda jokes occasionally, so you'll have to bear with me. You can laugh. Let's see. Brian also said, as many fans remember the 8-bit, as many fans remember the 8-bit chiptune sound of the original NES and the first Legend of Zelda game, how does the orchestra pay homage to that aspect that many fans identify with? Well, great question. One thing that Koji Kondo is just a master at. He is a king of melody. Back when he was writing music for The Legend of Zelda, the tools were limited, so it was really important to place the emphasis on not so much the detail, because you couldn't get too detailed with the music, as the capability of the hardware was just too simple. So what he focused on was melody, and that's really the strength of Zelda music across the board. It's just you walk out after intermission begins, and you're humming these themes that either you're familiar with or you're not, or you're enjoying our take on it and kind of a bigger, grander approach to the music than what you've heard before. And really that's the approach we take, and that's how we pay homage to the simpler stuff, is not really expanding on it in a narrative way, we try not to overcomplicate it. We try to stay as true and as faithful to the original material as possible, while while expanding on it and telling the story that you remember. So really, it's drawing from material you're already familiar with. Chad and I, as fans, are really putting our spin on it. And again, we haven't gone unpoliced. Everything in the show has been hand in hand with Nintendo. Koji Kondo, Eiji Onuma, Nintendo of America, they've all been with us the entire way, and I feel like the show represents the franchise in a very faithful and fun, family-friendly way. You're going to enjoy it. Zach M. via Twitter. How do you incorporate the history of the game into the symphony? Do you incorporate the Ocarina of Time, Zelda 2, Majora's Mask, or any of the other versions of the original Legend of Zelda games in the symphony? The answer is yes to everything. It was really important for us to hit everything because Zelda is such a huge franchise and offers so much. Now, but we weren't allowed sorry, I'm tripping up on my words. The luxury of doing it all. Otherwise, we would be there for hours. So really, it was a challenge, kind of defining the scope and then putting it in a box, a 90-minute set that was a digestible format that you could sit through and enjoy and feel like you got everything you came for. The show is meant to be expanded upon and grow into a season 2, but season 1, we feel, if we were only going to do it once, season 1 is really the core stuff. And so yes, we hit the original Legend of Zelda. You get that dungeon melody. You get Majora's Mask. We tie it into Ocarina of Time. You get Zelda 2. There's a great dungeon medley where we hit some of these things that you might remember from that game. And in terms of the story and the history of the game, we've organized it in the symphony itself, which is the 4-movement component to the program, hits the 4 main tentpoles of the franchise, which are Ocarina of Time, The Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, and A Link to the Past. We paid special, careful attention to the official timeline, which splits into 3 different branches, and it would have been weird kind of sending people into Auditorium A or Auditorium B at a certain point, so we had to kind of squeeze those all together and put them on a linear path. But we think we've done it in a way that is easy to understand. You're able to follow the story and kind of understand how all these games have a connection. They're not just separate. They're not just individual stories that have no connection. There is some tie-in, and they do fall into a formula, or rather an equation that I called it Symphony of the Goddesses because I felt like the goddesses who created the Triforce were responsible for setting up, from a narrative and from a fictional standpoint, were responsible for setting up this world and kind of putting the events in motion that get you as a player, as Link, going on your quest to defeat the bad guy and save the princess, and all the epic things you have to do in between. So thank you, Zach, for a good question. Brian T. via Twitter. Are similar musical themes used from game to game, or is each game given a completely new score? This sounds kind of more like a Zelda music question in general, not pertaining to the show, but it's important nonetheless. Every game has its own score, but they share themes. So think of Star Wars or Lord of the Rings. Those have things that we call motifs and themes that permeate the narrative of the story and carry over. It's what we tie to certain characters, certain events. Darth Vader has his theme, and we all know, we can all whistle that. I think as Zelda fans, we can all hum Ganon's theme, and Ganon is a pretty prominent bad guy in the series. So whenever he pops up, you're going to hear the music that's associated with his character, and it may be a little different from game to game, but it's always familiar. And I think that's one of the things that kind of helps us carry over our passion from one game to the next. And so yeah, and I mean, we've got 16 games, and they all have their own unique score. So it's been a lot of fun playing with that in a symphonic capacity and bringing that to life in a very cinematic way. Brian also asked, what do you think has made Zelda remain relevant more than 25 years after the initial release? Nintendo has done a really good job at keeping it relevant by evolving it with each franchise, or with each console, and you know, it feels carefully planned out. Of course, they just released the official timeline and a lot of the story details in a book in Japan called the Hyrule Historia. It's coming out translated via Dark Horse Comics, so you can go check that out on Amazon. I think it's like $20 or something now. It's coming out in January. I can't wait. You know, there's also just something magical about Zelda that you know, I can't necessarily put my finger on. You know, it's remained relevant because it's found its way into the hearts of so many people, and I think it's just infectious. And so come out to the show and see for yourself. Maybe you know, maybe you'll walk away and need to go to the Nintendo World Store and buy a Zelda game. One last question is from Brian C. On Google+. Do you think the performance of Symphony of the Goddesses appeals more to regular Symphony goers or more to the Zelda fan base? When we set out to put this thing together, it was to appeal to both. You know, Zelda fans, you're gonna like it. It's created for you. You know, Chad Sider and myself, we put it together as kind of an opportunity to do something to kind of express our love for this franchise. And we figured if we could get it right for ourselves and then pass that on to Nintendo and they give us a thumbs up, it would hopefully be good enough for Zelda fans. And so far, so good. We've been really excited to present the material to you guys, and you know, it's your smiles, your tears, your excitement after the show that keep us coming back. You know, we know how much this franchise means to you because it means a lot to us. So it's you know, it's just a great excuse and reason to get together and celebrate what is great music and a great IP, intellectual property. But in terms of symphony goers, if you're a symphony goer and you're normally going to the concert hall to see you know, Richard Strauss or Stravinsky, you know, you're going to be at Zelda hearing a lot of interesting classical influences, and we really make a thorough use of the orchestra. This is energetic music. It's also storytelling music. So and it's very passionate. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of romance and excitement, and just it has its peaks and valleys. It's very dynamic. It's a fun experience, and we built it for you too. So you know, because we wanna introduce to you something that we're passionate about, and it's a way to get kids into the concert hall and spread the love for what we feel is something that is becoming less and less appreciated today. So come out, support it. Hopefully you'll have a good time. I think that's all our questions. Just want to just invite you guys to come out and join us for Symphony of the Goddesses at the Madison Theater on November 28th. Tickets are available at Ticketmaster and theater at msg.com. You can go to zelda-symphony.com for a direct link, and we'll be excited to see you there. Thanks, guys.